"This isn't a medical emergency," the elderly ambulance driver whispered to the paramedic. "Trauma patterns, tactical wounds, coordinated timing. This is a military operation gone wrong." Nobody knew he'd spent 22 years as an Army flight medic treating combat casualties in war zones. From which city in the world are you watching this story today? If stories like this move you, consider subscribing to Unseen Legends for more tales of quiet heroes walking among us. Friday evening, 9:35 p.m., the Emergency Medical Services garage in Phoenix, Arizona, was preparing for another busy weekend shift. Marcus Thompson, 67 years old, was conducting his pre-shift vehicle inspection with the methodical precision of someone who understood that equipment failure could mean the difference between life and death. In his EMT uniform, calm demeanor, and gentle way with patients, he looked like the experienced ambulance driver he'd been for 12 years. To paramedics, hospital staff, and countless patients, he was simply reliable. Marcus, the steady driver who could navigate emergency traffic like an artist, and always kept patients calm during transport. Nobody knew Marcus's past. To them, he was just the dependable ambulance operator who never missed a shift, maintained his vehicle in perfect condition, and somehow always knew the fastest route to any hospital in the city. No one knew that between 1978 and 2000, he had served as a U.S. Army flight medic, conducting medical evacuations in some of the world's most dangerous combat zones. This shift started routinely, but at 10:47 p.m., a call came in that would change everything. Unit 23, Priority 1 emergency, multiple casualties, downtown warehouse district, industrial accident reported. Marcus and his partner, EMT Sarah Rodriguez, responded immediately. During the 8-minute drive, dispatch provided updates that didn't quite add up. Possible explosion, unknown number of casualties, police securing the scene. When they arrived at the warehouse complex, Marcus immediately recognized details that triggered his combat medical training. The scene was too organized, too coordinated for an industrial accident. Multiple vehicles, tactical positioning, and casualties with injury patterns that told a very different story. The first patient was a young man with what appeared to be a gunshot wound to the shoulder, but the trajectory and entry pattern were consistent with military weapons, not industrial equipment. His clothing showed signs of tactical gear that had been hastily removed. "Sarah," Marcus said quietly, "look at this wound pattern. This isn't from factory machinery." "What do you mean?" Marcus examined the patient more carefully. "Bullet wound, high-velocity round, probably military grade. And look at his hands, calluses consistent with weapons training, not industrial work." The second patient confirmed Marcus's suspicions. Shrapnel wounds from an explosive device, tactical burns, and equipment residue that indicated military-grade ordnance. This wasn't an industrial accident, it was the aftermath of a military operation. "Marcus, how do you know all this?" Sarah asked. Marcus hesitated. For 12 years, he'd successfully maintained his civilian identity, far from the world of combat medicine. "I have some medical training that helps me recognize different types of trauma." As they treated more casualties, Marcus's analysis became unavoidable. These were professional soldiers or mercenaries who had been involved in some kind of tactical operation that had gone catastrophically wrong. The injuries were consistent with close-quarters battle, tactical positions, coordinated wounds, and medical equipment that suggested these men had been prepared for combat casualties. Someone had been conducting military operations in downtown Phoenix. Marcus faced a dilemma that defined his civilian career. For 12 years, he had found peace in emergency medical service, saving lives without the violence and complexity of battlefield medicine. But he was treating casualties from what appeared to be domestic military operations, and his unique expertise might be the only thing standing between these patients and death. At the hospital, Marcus approached Dr. Jennifer Park, the emergency room physician. "Dr. Park, I need to brief you on these casualties. They're not industrial accident victims." "What do you mean, Marcus?" "These are combat injuries, military weapons, tactical equipment, coordinated casualties. Someone conducted a military operation in our city tonight." Dr. Park looked skeptical. "Marcus, that's a serious allegation. What's your basis for this assessment?" Marcus made the decision that would expose his carefully guarded past. "Because I treated identical casualties for 22 years as an Army flight medic, combat zones, special operations, tactical medical evacuations. I know what battlefield medicine looks like." Dr. Park's expression changed immediately. "You're serious?" "Very serious, and these patients need combat trauma protocols, not standard emergency medicine." Working together, Marcus and Dr. Park implemented military medical procedures that civilian hospitals rarely used. Marcus's combat experience guided treatment decisions that saved lives conventional emergency medicine might have lost. "Patient 3 has combat shock and tactical hypothermia," Marcus explained. "Standard warming protocols won't work. We need rapid core temperature elevation and combat trauma fluid management." "How do you know these procedures?" "Medevac operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've treated hundreds of similar cases." While treating casualties, Marcus quietly documented evidence for law enforcement. The weapons signatures, equipment fragments, and injury patterns told the story of a sophisticated military operation that had encountered serious resistance. At 2 a.m., FBI agent Tom Wilson arrived at the hospital. "Dr. Park, we need to interview your ambulance driver. We understand he has insights about tonight's casualties." Marcus met with Agent Wilson in a secure conference room. "Mr. Thompson, we're investigating what appears to be a domestic military operation. Your medical assessment could be crucial." "Agent Wilson, these casualties are from a professional military engagement. Weapons, tactics and injuries all indicate trained combatants using advanced equipment. How can you be so certain?" 22 years Army Flight Medic. Combat medical evacuations across multiple theaters. I've seen every type of battlefield injury. Agent Wilson reviewed Marcus's military records. "Jesus, Distinguished Flying Cross, Combat Medical Badge, over 2,000 medevac missions. You're a legend in the medical community. I was a medic. Now I'm an ambulance driver who wants to save lives." "Sir, these casualties are connected to a domestic terrorism cell we've been tracking. Mercenaries planning attacks on federal facilities. Your medical analysis provides crucial intelligence." The investigation revealed that Marcus had treated survivors of a failed attack on a federal courthouse. The mercenaries had encountered unexpected resistance from federal security and suffered significant casualties during their retreat. "Mr. Thompson," Agent Wilson explained, "your combat medical skills saved lives tonight, but also provided evidence that will help us dismantle this terrorist network. I just treated patients who needed help. You did much more. Would you consider consulting for our tactical medical response team?" Marcus looked at his ambulance, then thought about the patients whose lives he'd saved using skills he'd learned in very different circumstances. "Part-time consulting perhaps, but I won't leave emergency medical service. Why not pursue a larger role in federal tactical medicine? Because this is where I belong now. I spent 22 years treating combat casualties in war zones. Here I can save lives without the violence, helping people who are sick or injured rather than wounded by combat." When news of the thwarted terrorist attack broke, Marcus's colleagues were amazed to learn their quiet ambulance driver was a decorated combat veteran. Paramedic Sarah approached him. "Marcus, we had no idea about your military background." "I was a flight medic, Sarah. Same job then and now, getting patients to safety and keeping them alive during transport. But you're a hero." "I'm a medic who cares about saving lives." Young EMT Jake asked, "Mr. Marcus, will you teach us combat medicine?" "I'll teach you to assess patients carefully, to think beyond standard protocols, and to never give up on someone who needs help. Those are the most important medical skills." The Army Medical Corps reached out to honor Marcus personally. Colonel Lisa Martinez visited the EMS station. "Marcus, your combat medical work prevented fatalities and provided crucial intelligence. Medical Command wants to recognize your continued service." "That's kind but unnecessary. I was just doing my job." "You proved that medical service transcends any single uniform or mission." Marcus found the perfect balance: 3 days a week consulting for Federal Tactical Medical Response, 4 days driving ambulance for Phoenix Emergency Medical Services. "This way I can serve both emergency medicine and national security simultaneously." Phoenix's most extraordinary ambulance driver, the man who prevents terrorist attacks while saving lives on city streets. The truth was, Marcus loved both forms of medical service. Sometimes the most extraordinary people hide in the most ordinary places. People like Marcus drive ambulances through city streets, but their skills span from emergency rooms to battlefield hospitals. Training never disappears. The mission to save lives never ends. The next time you see an ambulance crew, remember, they might be protecting you in ways you never imagined. Have you ever been helped by emergency medical services? Tell us in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories about quiet heroes like Marcus Thompson, subscribe to Unseen Legends, because sometimes the best medical care combines battlefield experience with civilian compassion. This story is a work of fiction created to honor the spirit of service. Any resemblance to actual persons or events is purely coincidental.